Yellowstone Hot Spring. On June 7, 2016, Colin Nathaniel Scott and his sister Sable visited the Norris Geyser Basin at Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. Colin, a 23-year-old from Portland, Oregon, decided to explore thermal features away from the designated boardwalk toward Pork Chop Geyser, explicitly violating park regulations. Colin approached the geyser to test the water temperature. He knelt down near the edge and leaned forward to check the spring with his hand. The mineral-encrusted rocks proved slippery beneath him. He lost his footing and fell headfirst into the acidic thermal pool. Sable watched helplessly and filmed on her cell phone. Colin surfaced once, calling for help, before disappearing. The extreme acidity and heat, measuring around 199 degrees Fahrenheit with a pH of approximately 2, prevented any rescue attempt. His body remained visible overnight, rapidly dissolving in the caustic conditions. By the next morning, Colin's body had completely dissolved. Only his wallet and flip-flops remained in the spring. Park rangers recovered his personal items and issued stricter enforcement of boardwalk-only regulations. Taft Point Fall. On October 24, 2018, at sunset, Meenakshi Murthy and Vishnu Vishwanath visited Taft Point Overlook in Yosemite National Park, California. The married couple, ages 30 and 29, had relocated from India and maintained a travel blog called Holidays and Happily Ever Afters, with over 12,000 Instagram followers. The overlook featured a sheer cliff edge with no railings. The couple set up a camera tripod near the ledge to capture sunset photographs. Their earlier social media posts showed them posing dangerously with captions reading, "Living life on the edge." Another couple photographed them approximately 5 minutes before the fall. The couple leaned over the edge or stepped too far back while positioning for the camera. Both fell 800 feet together. A visitor noticed the abandoned tripod the next morning and alerted rangers. Rangers used binoculars from the rim, spotted the bodies, and dispatched a helicopter for recovery. Autopsy results revealed both victims tested positive for ethyl alcohol, indicating intoxication at the time of the fall. Yosemite installed warning signs at Taft Point, and rangers increased edge monitoring, while their case became a cautionary tale about social media peer pressure and vanity deaths in national parks. Heroic rescue attempt. On July 20th, 1981, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, David Allen Kerwin and his friend Ronald Ratliff visited the Fountain Paint Pot thermal area in Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. Kerwin, a 24-year-old from California, accompanied Ratliff, who brought his Great Dane named Moosey. The dog suddenly jumped into Celestine Pool, a thermal feature with water temperatures reaching 202 degrees Fahrenheit. The dog became visible in the boiling water, suffering and whining. Bystanders immediately shouted warnings to Kerwin not to go in. Kerwin replied, "Like hell I won't," and immediately dove headfirst into the pool. He successfully swam to the dog and pushed the animal toward shore. Kerwin managed to climb out, but had suffered catastrophic thermal burns covering approximately 100% of his body. The boiling water blinded him instantly. When he attempted to remove his shoes, the skin peeled off with them. Kerwin told rescuers, "That was stupid. How bad am I?" He was transported to Old Faithful Clinic, then flown to a hospital in Salt Lake City. Despite extensive medical interventions, Kerwin died the next morning from massive thermal injuries and shock. The dog never emerged from the pool and dissolved in the thermal water. Vernal Fall drowning. On July 19, 2011, a 12-member Orthodox Christian church group from California's Central Valley visited Yosemite National Park. The group hiked the Mist Trail and reached the top of Vernal Fall, a 317-foot waterfall. Ramina Badal, 21, Hormiz David, 22, and Ninos Yakub, 27, were among the members. Metal barricades and multiple warning signs clearly marked the area as off-limits. Several group members ignored the warnings and climbed over the barricade. The summer of 2011 had recorded exceptional snowmelt, causing the highest water flow in a decade. Badal, David, and Yakub waded into the Merced River approximately 25 feet from the waterfall's edge. The river flowed extremely fast despite its normal appearance. The current suddenly swept one person into the flow. A chain reaction followed as the others tried to rescue them. Witnesses reported seeing a couple embracing tightly as the current pulled them toward the edge. All three were swept over the 317-foot waterfall. The bodies were recovered separately over several months. Rangers found Hormiz David on August 5th, Ninos Yakub on November 29th, and Ramina Badal on December 3rd. Bear attack. On August 6th through 7th, 2015, Lance Crosby hiked the Elephant Back Loop Trail in Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. Crosby, a 63-year-old medical clinic employee, had spent 5 previous summers working at Yellowstone. He decided to hike solo that day. Investigation found no bear spray or firearm on Crosby, indicating he left critical safety equipment behind. Forensic evidence suggested he was possibly jogging or moving quickly. He encountered a female grizzly bear with at least one cub off-trail. The grizzly perceived Crosby as a threat to her cubs and initiated a defensive attack. Crosby fought back, but the grizzly overpowered him. The bear partially consumed his body, then covered and cached the remains. A search team found his body half-mile from the main trail. Park officials located the female grizzly and her cubs using GPS tracking. They tranquilized all 3 animals. Park management decided to euthanize the adult female because caching behavior indicated food habituation. They captured the cubs for wildlife rehabilitation. The decision proved extremely controversial and sparked nationwide debate about bear management policy. By the way, if you find this informative, I cover stories like these regularly. Consider subscribing if you'd like to see more. Now back to the video. Half Dome Slip. On July 13, 2024, Grace Roloff and her father Jonathan began the Half Dome hike in Yosemite National Park, California. Grace, a 20-year-old from Arizona, accompanied her father, a school principal from Phoenix. Both successfully reached the 8,842-foot summit and took celebratory photographs. They began their descent around 4 o'clock on the 400-foot cable section. Grace wore new hiking shoes with minimal traction. A sudden thunderstorm materialized rapidly, bringing heavy rain and hail along with strong wind. Grace had descended approximately 3/4 down the cable section. The new shoes provided inadequate grip on the rain-slicked granite. Both her feet slipped simultaneously. She lost her grip on the chain and began sliding down the mountain. Jonathan watched helplessly as Grace slid past him at accelerating speed. She fell an estimated 200 to 300 feet down the granite face. She suffered severe head trauma on impact and likely died instantly. Park Ranger Shauna Daly stayed with Jonathan throughout the ordeal in worsening weather conditions. Jonathan was eventually airlifted from the mountain approximately 3 hours after the fall. El Capitan rappel. On October 1, 2024, Balin Miller climbed the Sea of Dreams route on El Capitan's 2,400-foot wall in Yosemite National Park, California. Miller, a 23-year-old elite climbing influencer from Anchorage, Alaska, was known online as Orange Tent Guy. He completed the full solo ascent using lead rope soloing technique. After reaching the summit, Balin began rappelling to retrieve his haul bag stuck high on the wall. He set up his rappel system correctly at the initial anchor. Then he made a fatal mistake by forgetting to tie a knot at the end of his rappel rope, a standard safety protocol. He began his rappel descent smoothly down the massive granite face. The descent proceeded normally until he reached the end of the rope. Without a safety knot, he descended past the rope's end and lost all connection to his anchor system. He fell more than 50 feet to his death on the rocks below. The fall was inadvertently live-streamed to his TikTok audience. Hundreds of viewers watched in real time, initially thinking the event was part of his climbing show. Park rangers discovered his body at the base. The investigation confirmed a simple failure to tie one safety knot, a basic error unusual for such an advanced climber. Duc Falls. On June 8, 2025, Grant Herridge visited Olympic National Park in Washington for his first major adventure away from home. Herridge, an 18-year-old from Waco, Texas, had recently graduated from high school and planned to attend Baylor University in the fall. He hiked to the Duc Falls area to view the approximately 50-foot waterfall. Grant decided to cross the upper river on rocks positioned above the waterfall to get closer views or photographs. The river ran extremely fast that day due to rapid snowmelt. The rocks were slippery from algae, moss, and constant water spray. He stepped onto a wet rock, and his feet immediately lost traction. Grant slipped and fell over the approximately 50-foot Duc Falls into the churning water below. He briefly resurfaced downriver, then went under again. His body became caught on rocks between the first and second falls. Rescue teams searched throughout June 8th without success. Park rangers found Grant's body on June 9th in the evening, submerged and pinned between the falls. Recovery operations took a full week to complete safely. Crater Lake drowning. On August 18, 2019, Sumed Manar visited Cleetwood Cove at Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. Manar, a 27-year-old graduate student from India studying robotics at Oregon State University, joined other swimmers at the popular tourist area. Cleetwood Cove featured Jumping Rock, a cliff jumping spot approximately 25 feet above the lake's surface. Sumed climbed to the top of the rock alongside other jumpers enjoying the summer weather. Crater Lake holds the distinction of being the deepest lake in the United States, with depths exceeding 1,000 feet, and maintains extremely cold water temperatures year-round. Sumed jumped from the rock into the lake. He never resurfaced after entering the water. Other swimmers attempted an immediate rescue and threw a life ring toward his last known position. They could not reach him or locate him underwater. Someone called park rangers immediately, and they arrived quickly. The water temperature measured approximately 48 degrees Fahrenheit, despite the warm summer air. The extreme cold shock combined with deep underwater terrain created a fatal scenario. Divers searched Monday morning and found Sumed's body on a rock ledge underwater at a depth of approximately 30 to 40 feet. The autopsy determined the cause of death as drowning, likely caused by cold water shock. Death Valley Heat. On August 1, 2024, Peter Hayes Rubino drove to the Natural Bridge Trailhead in Death Valley National Park, California. Rubino, a 57-year-old Los Angeles resident, chose to hike despite an extreme heat advisory. The temperature reached 119 degrees Fahrenheit that day. Peter completed the 1-mile round-trip hike to Natural Bridge. He started his return toward the parking lot at approximately 2:50 in the afternoon. Bystanders at the parking lot noticed him stumbling as he approached. They observed that his speech and behavior did not make sense, classic symptoms of confusion caused by hyperthermia. Several people offered assistance, water, and shade. Peter declined all help, insisting he was fine. Disoriented from the extreme heat, he got into his personal vehicle. He drove off a 20-foot embankment at the parking lot's edge due to his confused state. The vehicle hit the ground below, and Peter crashed but remained conscious, though injured. Bystanders rushed to the crashed vehicle and helped extract Peter. They provided additional shade and more water while someone called 911. Park rangers arrived and found Peter not breathing. They immediately began cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Peter was transported in an air-conditioned ambulance with CPR continuing. Medical personnel pronounced him dead at approximately 4:42 in the afternoon. Death Valley implemented enhanced visitor education about heat illness symptoms and deployed warning stations at trailheads. If this was informative, consider subscribing so you don't miss future content. Thanks for watching.